Hey guys, you are listening to the Creative Talk podcast, and today we are going to talk about weddings. And we also have a guest with us. I don't know if you're a guest or what to call you. Caitlyn, my lady business partner friend.
Hey guys, I don't know what to say.
So let's just jump into these weddings. Okay, anybody we're going to talk about it from the videography side and the photography side, because we've done both. And are they fun? Do we like doing them?
No.
Yeah, they are my least favorite thing to do, but probably the most rewarding when you're done, when you hear back from the couple. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's start off positive, because we know we are going to get around to a lot of negative. Well, first, I mean, I'd say they can be fun. Would you guys think? I mean, do you have fun doing them? Like, day of, like, when you're there?
Yeah, I would say I do, as long as somebody else is doing it with me, probably. The few that I've done by myself have just been awful. But I normally, between two of my friends, when I lived back in Muncie, when we did them, they were typically pretty fun.
So you did them by yourself. I am lucky enough to never experience that. Me and Caitlyn have always worked together. I couldn't even imagine doing it by yourself.
Oh, it's terrible, because, I mean, the last one I did by myself, going back and forth between, like, the getting ready shots and, like, dealing with the bride was, like, the worst. She just wanted literally everything. I was like, you realize I'm one person. And she wanted me to do photography too, and I was like, well, that's literally impossible. I cannot do both.
No. I mean, me and Caitlyn, the only reason we offer both is because there are two of us.
Right,
no,
yeah.
I can't imagine doing both. There's no way.
Mm-mm.
No way. Well, Caitlyn, do you have any input on weddings that you've done?
Yeah, I'll say weddings can be fun. It kind of depends. Like, there are fun parts of weddings, but for the most part, they are stressful. They do take a lot of time, and there's a lot of planning that goes into making sure that the days run smoothly. So if you are willing to put in the work ahead of time before the actual wedding day and ensure that it can run smoothly, you're more than likely going to have fun the day of the wedding, but there's still always for sure things that are going to go wrong that are not going to go the way that you had planned. So, yeah.
And one thing Caitlyn says all the time is that they make great work in your portfolio, because usually people are dressed nice, and it's usually a beautiful setting already. There's someone else already doing what we call like set design. So like all that's already done for you. You don't got to worry about like a location. I mean, we have been at some crappy venues before that look bad. I mean, they're not all beautiful, but most of them are. But I think they're. Yeah, or you say something, James?
Yeah, I kind of touching on the, planning ahead. I've had quite a few. I mean, I guess this is more negative, but I've had a lot of bride and grooms where they just don't want to meet. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, we don't really have time to meet to plan this all out.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, because you're like,
oh my gosh,
anything within this realm, like filmmaking wise, weddings, anything like.
And that is so frustrating. No matter how much, like, the last few we did, Caitlyn, right? We didn't meet, did we? Well, the last one we did.
Yeah, so the last one we did, but the one right before the last wedding that we did was like, it was so difficult to get a hold of them, and like the bride's mom was like heavily involved with planning, and so we were trying to schedule with the bride's mom, the aunt was like the coordinator, so we were trying to schedule a meeting with like 4 or 5 people, all at once to just make sure that the day would go smoothly. And it ended up, we met with them for the first time like 4 days before the wedding, and we were waiting, like trying to get feedback from them and trying to make sure that we had the right timeline and like all the right people lined up to do family portraits and everything. And it ended up being that we were just screwed out of all the potential planning that could have happened before the wedding. And yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah, planning's so important. And that's it's I don't know how to say this. I can't. It's hard to believe how much the couples. I know they got a lot going on, a lot they're planning, but how much they just expect. I mean, we're not just catering food there. Like we need to know. We need to know every detail of where things are going to be, who's going to do what. I mean, like, first of all, I can't believe how many people are not as specific as to what they want. Like, what do you're paying us. What do you want? What specific things do you want captured? You know, and not being vague and plain. I don't think there's one wedding we've done, Caitlyn, have we, that they have not thrown a curveball at us. That there's always something that changes, or something that was like known the whole time, like a first look with their dad. It's like, well, no one ever said that. Like when we ask any first looks, like of anything like that, or anything we need to know about, or we did one in this is kind of going negative already, aren't we? Already complaining, but there's a lot to complain about, though. Is the thing is, but
Yeah.
so like things get thrown at you all the time, and you just always expect unexpected. Like we were doing one ceremony, they did they didn't even say a thing about like a sandwich. They were doing a sandwich.
It was a unity ceremony.
So they made a sandwich together. It's like, okay, well, like I would have liked to get close up and actually film them making the sandwich or something, but no, I mean I did what I could, but
yeah. And the thing was with that one, Austin, can you mute?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. The thing was with that one was that everyone else at that wedding knew that was happening. Like the officiant knew that they were doing this unique like unity ceremony thing, and the officiant knew that was happening. The photographer knew that was happening, and we were just the video team there. And so we were trying to figure out, like, the officiant came and they were like, oh, have you heard about the surprise during the ceremony? And we were like, no. Like, this was like 30 minutes before the ceremony happened. And we were like, no, like what's going on? And then the officiant was like, oh, well, they're just doing a surprise. Like, you'll get it. And we're like, no, like, can you tell us what it is? Like, where do we need to be? Are they moving? Like, what's happening, you know? So then we tried talking to the photographer, and they were like, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. Like, it's no big deal. It's just a surprise that they're doing. We're like, okay, can you inform us of anything that's going on here? Like, we're all here for one common goal, to make content for these people, and you are making that very difficult for us right now. So...
And I do want to say that wedding, that couple, they were great. They were amazing. They're awesome. I want to I don't want to forget to come back to that experience working with the photographer, working with photographers as video, and probably vice versa. We've not experienced the other way around, working with working with a video team as a photographer. But I do want to say a couple more good things about weddings. Is at first, most people start in weddings, and if you start in weddings, you've pretty much experienced a little bit of the worst of the worst. It's positive though. I'm saying it in a positive way. So like, I don't think it gets harder than that. I mean, do you guys think? I mean, what's harder than doing a wedding for photo or video OS?
I mean, not so much that, but like this past wedding that I did, like I only did photo for it, and when you guys
by
were
yourself
backtrack, yeah, by myself, yeah, that was interesting, but I've known the bride for a couple years now, and
that usually makes things feel a little more comfortable, but.
Yeah, and the thing is, she had such a huge family, and she had so many bridesmaids, and he had so many groomsmen, and it was just the nice thing was kind of not to backtrack a little bit, but when you were talking about like when people say they don't really know what they want, she knew exactly what she wanted. She knew what kind of style she wanted to go for, and So that was kind of nice to have something to work with. That way, you know, we're not doing this all on the fly again.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that was
that goes back to like the planning. Caitlin's been really good at coming up with a system of. We learned like this is all. We did not start off, you know, real organized at all. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I'd never been to a wedding. I'd filmed the first wedding I'd ever attended, so that was all new to me. But I'll let you talk about some tips maybe to people out there on what you should do, say, or information you probably need to communicate back and forth with the couple before starting, or before the day of the Caitlyn.
Sorry, my mic was muted.
That's just for James to hear. Right.
Yeah, so something that we just recently started doing was we upped our prices because we started doing this, and then it ended up helping us out just as much as it helped the bride and groom. But now we are creating custom timelines for every wedding that we do. So if they have a coordinator that they're working with, we'll work with the coordinator to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to timing. Because something that we ran into all the time, every single wedding we've done, is that everyone has different times scheduled for every event that's happening throughout the day. No one ever knows what's going on when. And so we found that if we kind of spearhead that and we become the vendor that says, okay, you know, executive decision, this is what we're doing and this is how much time we need during these parts of the day, it kind of makes it easier for everyone to work around. So working up towards the wedding day, we basically just ask what time the ceremony is, and then we work everything around that. So if they're doing a first look, then we can schedule the first look and all of like the formal portraits and everything before the ceremony. That way, after the ceremony, the only thing that we have to do is family formals, and that's it. Which is super nice. But if they aren't doing a first look, then we have to kind of make sure that we're always in the right spot to where the bride and groom don't see each other. And even then that comes to, you know, planning and making sure that your timing is set up correctly too. But, and something else that goes into creating timelines too is when we do photos, we actually work with the bride and groom or their family members usually to make sure when it comes to formal portraits, so, you know, the extended family and everyone that wants pictures with the bride and groom after the ceremony, we actually go through and say, okay, what are the names of every single person that you want in each group photo? That way we have a checklist that we actually take physical copies with us on the wedding day. And we usually ask them to have like a cousin or someone who knows the entire family to be our point person. That way we're not running around saying, okay, where's Uncle Jim? Like, we need Uncle Jim and he's not here, you know? And that is something that we just started doing this year, and it has been so helpful. Yeah, just making sure that you're planning and like working directly with the bride and groom. That's like the biggest thing.
As long as they're willing to work with you, you know, and supply information, which, yeah. So I don't know if you guys want to jump into like, I don't even, we could have organized this better, but like going into like photography versus videography on weddings. I don't know if you guys want to jump into that now, or let's go ahead and start talking about it. We can always go back to it. But
Yeah.
So like, what do you guys think is easier?
Photography.
Yeah. Photography.
Okay. I'm going to counter that. So the thing with photography is posing. I hate posing, and I hate coming up with poses, and that's something that I usually have like a few in my back pocket that are like my go-to things, and then it's like it just gets super repetitive. With video, you don't necessarily have to do that. Video, you can kind of ride on the photographer's back. There are poses that you do have to do and like involve movement in for video, but a lot of it you don't have to stand there for an hour and a half with all of the family and make sure that you're getting every shot with all of the extended family members and everything. So I don't know. I think they both have their pros and cons. I wouldn't necessarily say that one is easier than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would.
Okay. You've also never shot photos for a wedding, so.
What? Oh, not like on my own entirely. No, but I mean there is posing involved with video, and but I mean I do get like you don't need this. You don't pose the entire family for the wedding film to do certain things individually. But I think at that moment, I think if there was like, in my head, I see like this graph, there's probably like a peak of stress during all, I think the family formal stuff for the photographer is probably more stressful at that moment. But I think for videography, I think it's just a consistent stress throughout the day.
Yeah.
But I
think the reason I say, I mean, I agree with you, Kate, about like they're not really
posing,
one's easier than the other. But posing, I love posing, so I
Do
think
you?
that's kind of why. Yeah.
Oh.
So I think that's why photography comes a little bit easier for me.
All right. Well, we're gonna hire you all the time now. You're gonna take over all the posing because.
And I think that's why, because I kind of got into doing portraits and not necessarily wedding photography, but like I've started doing portraits before I started filming weddings. So I think that's kind of why it's kind of.
So you were
I've been
into
doing that a
photography
little bit
before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I didn't get my first camera until I think it was right at the end of my freshman year of college.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So have you done more photos or more video for weddings?
Now, definitely more video.
More video's picking up. It is. It seems like everybody who has, like, if we're shooting or filming, I say shoot for film and photo. If we are filming a wedding that already has a photographer already booked, usually it's like someone they've known already or like they've already been recommended. But if we do both, it's like it's because they found us before they even knew anybody else. But I think this is something I noticed too. I think people they always seem to hire a photographer before a videographer. Always. I never see it the other way around. And I think that's, I forget where I was going with this. But, video is always like an afterthought. You know, like it is a luxury add-on, I think. I think and this is something I do want to talk about. I think, or I know, I should say, like, I don't know how many people agree with this, but I think video should cost more than photo. I think
100%.
like it's the first few we were doing, it was so aggravating running around with 3 to 4 cameras and trying to capture these moments and make sure everything's moved, set up in time, that everybody's mic'd up for the ceremony, and then like the photographer is. I'm not bashing photographers, saying that it's easy or saying there is less work involved. Okay, I feel like that's a good argument. I mean, there is more work involved in the video process and filmmaking than there is photography. Not saying that one's more valuable than the other, but
There's also more gear involved in video. I mean, how many weddings have we gone to where we see the photographer walk in with one bag, or even the weddings we've done, we walk in with like one bag for photo and that's it. And video, we literally have a cart and we have 6 bags and C-stands and we bring in lights and sandbags and, all this, just stuff, this gear that you have to have. It's essential for video. Like there's no way to get around it.
yeah, well, I mean, you can go light and run around. I mean, that is a choice on our part. We choose to go, to bring the best of the best gear to create the best product. I mean, there are people who do weddings with, run around with nothing but one camera and a gimbal or something. I mean, I mean, what do you normally have, James? I mean, don't you have the GH4 and then the gimbal? I mean, you create wedding films with that, but that alone is still more to the gimbal itself, balancing that and making sure batteries are charged and you swap a lens on a gimbal, you have to recalibrate the whole thing and rebalance it. You swap a lens for photography, you just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. I like for me when I was when my buddy Mike and I were filming weddings, we had 3 cameras set up. We each had a gimbal and we had my drone as well. So that taking all that into effect, and not only just the production part, but the post-production. I mean, I know, like, I'm kind of guilty of it too. Like, whenever I do photos for a wedding, I have presets made for photos.
Well,
so.
It makes sense. I mean, it's not like it's not like you're cheating anything out. I mean, you take a photo
Right.
of multiple people in the same lighting conditions and everything. You copy and pasting, you would just be, you did the work the first time. There's no reason to doing it all over again and again and again and again. I think that's just efficiency.
Right.
But we did do
Yes.
a wedding. Is that what you're about to bring up, Caitlin?
I don't know what year, but
Oh,
yeah.
I'll let you go.
No, I was gonna say, along with the presets, like that, it's so helpful when you shoot like 9 to 18,000 photos at a wedding in one day, and you just go through and like click, 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 try to find the perfect shot whenever you take 2 to 3 shots of every photo that you do. And
That
then
ding, by the
just-
way, sorry, I want to say that ding was like timed up perfect when you went.
Oh.
That was not done in post.
It was
That
like, keep to it. No, but yeah, presets, like they do make weddings so much easier, and that's something else too. Like we've seen other photographers who offer like same day slideshows for their weddings. So they'll shoot however many photos up until the reception, and then while everyone else is eating, they will sit there and edit like 20, 30 photos, and then have a slideshow playing during the first dance or whatever. And it's like, we've seen people do that and kind of get jealous in that it's like, okay, well, here we are with, all this gear and all this crap that we have to take in charge and make sure that we are ready and on time for the next thing that's going to happen. Especially like first dances, for example, like you have to make sure that we are like ready to go and cameras are rolling as soon as the first dance starts. Whereas photographers, like they can jump in at any moment in time. They, they can be halfway through the first dance and still have plenty of content and plenty of photos to choose from there.
Yeah. So I know the example you were talking about, Caitlin. I was going to talk about the same thing, but the different story was, well, we knew the groom at the wedding. We had. We're not going to say any names, but the couple, we had known them. So they were kind of open with what they were paying for the photographer. So we found that out. And then, like, obviously I gave them a deal. We're going to throw numbers out there. So we did this. This was like, our second wedding ever. So
Yeah.
it was like, a friend of ours, like, oh, $500. Yeah, I mean, that's a good starting point, I guess, for anybody. But if you're on your third wedding, don't charge $500.
Oh, yeah. Dear Lord, no, please.
So with $500, I was doing it. And, oh, my gosh, it's so stressful. They're always some sort of stress. And then like the photographer, we sit there and watch them offload their photos during the because they were doing the same day slideshow right there during the lunch hour, whoever's eating
Dinner.
and dinner, whatever you call it, the dinner hour, or whatever it is. But then just copy and paste. I mean, they're on presets, which nothing's wrong with that. But like, watched her do like the whole, like we sat with her and do the whole day, like right there in like 10 minutes, and like was done. And we know she made $3,000. And she was experienced. She'd been doing it for a while. I mean, she's not saying she's not worth that. It's an appropriate price, but the price difference between a photographer and a videographer should not be that drastic.
Yeah.
It should be the same. If not, video should be more. But that started a trend for a while. When I first started, it was like, these photographers are making thousands and I'm making a couple hundred and I'm doing so much more. And like you said, the post processing, I mean, photo editing can be quick. I mean, not that it can be hard. There's things you can deal with, and there are some things you Caitlin, you go out way above and beyond, replacing babies' heads if they weren't looking at the cameras and stuff. But
that's impressive.
Do what you got to do. I mean,
or just take the photo again. But I'm just kidding.
well, hey, when you're shooting a wedding in the middle of December and that baby is out there for 20 minutes and you're trying to get one shot with the baby looking at the camera, you're going to take what you can get. Like,
yeah, I guess yeah. Well, and I couldn't help but be aggravated with like, I'm not charging enough, like it was more of like, I don't know. It is aggravating to see like, if you are filming a wedding, anybody out there listening to this, don't be doing it for less than a photographer. It don't. And I think people need to keep us as a community filming the weddings need to make sure we are stern with that and that we value what we do.
Yeah, I think, and I feel like a lot of people starting out too. I mean, I know it was the same way with you guys and the same way with me. I charged dirt cheap too, but I feel like a lot of people are like, well, if I charge too much, that's going to scare a lot of people away. But at the same time, like you guys were talking about how you raised your prices there'll still be people that will pay that. You might not get as much work, but you'll still,
Yeah.
you know,
I want to talk on this.
I was gonna just send it over to you, Chris Doe. This quote.
Yeah, so it kind of goes into like a psychological like mentality on pricing. So if you position yourself at a lower price point, yeah, you might draw in more people, but you're not going to draw in the clientele that you want. So think about brands like Gucci and Coach and Michael Kors and Kate Spade. Think of all these like high fashion brands. They are not going to drop their prices just because someone says, "Hey, I can't afford this." They're going to
right.
stick to their prices, and you save up, like you value that. If that's something that you want, you're going to find a way to get to it. And, that may sound like cold hearted or whatever, but if it comes down to your work and you're putting in the time and the investment, like think about how much money you've spent on gear alone, not even time, because weddings, you can be there shooting for 12 hours out of the day, not including travel time, and then the 40, 50 hours or more that you're going to put into editing the wedding afterwards, and plus delivery. Like, for example, we give like these cool little commemorative like keepsake boxes with a unique flash drive and stuff. So there's way more expenses that go into a wedding than what people seem to think it is. And if you lower your own personal value to meet a broader budget, you're not going to be pulling in the clientele that you actually want to have in the long run. You're going to start setting a standard for yourself, and that's what people are going to view you as, is the cheap person, the person that everyone can afford, and that's not necessarily what you want in the long run.
No, yeah, it's definitely like when you get on Amazon or you're looking at, I don't know, say you're looking at headphones. Okay, you see like two that look alike. One's $20, one's 60. Which one do you think is going to be the better product? I mean,
Exactly.
and I think that's something I didn't think about till way later. And also another way to look at that when talking photography and videography. Like I said, people go for photographers first. That's like a need. Like it's like standard, not a need, but I mean it's like standard for wedding to have a photographer. Like there's always a photographer. There's not always a videographer, which to me, I think having your wedding filmed is a luxury.
Yep.
That's like, you got a nice car, you don't need the nice new rims on it, but if you want that, you can pay for it. I do think film. It seems like it's becoming more standard, but I do think film is a luxury. I don't think everyone needs to have their wedding film, but I think they should. But
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, and this is probably just because I've filmed weddings. Like I put too much thought into this. So like whenever I get married, I want to have a videographer first, and then think about
me
the
too.
photographer being afterthought kind of, not necessarily afterthought, but yeah, just because we know like what it everything goes into it.
I think it's, and you could always, and we've done this before too. You could pull frames from video. We've done that. Like
Yeah, right.
now, if you depend on like 4K is an 8 megapixel photo, which looks nice on online and stuff. I mean, we've done that before. Moments like maybe we didn't capture, and then like, well, I filmed it, so pull frames from it. So we got those photos right there, 24 frames a second.
Yeah.
Right, because that's what you guys use for. What was it for your
The box,
how you deliver?
Yeah,
your
so we do like
deliverables?
the custom box that Caitlyn was just talking about, and we'll pull a frame because usually if it's just filmed, we'll pull a frame, edit it, and make like a little custom cover, which it always looks really good because it's a small print, so it always looks good. But I've heard of people also shooting weddings who film it, just not breaking the shutter 180-degree rule, shooting at high shutters, so they can pull sharp photos out of it without motion blur, which is smart. Like my slow motion shots usually look better when I pull a frame from that. But well, is there any more you guys have to say about photography versus videography, a filming and shooting a wedding?
I don't think so.
Because I want to go into working with the opposite. So we like I said, we've never worked with a video team. We are the video working with photographer. Have you ever, James? Have you ever worked with a video person while you're the photographer?
No. Actually, the past 2 weddings I've done, they just had a photographer. I offered to do the videography, but yeah, they just had a photographer mainly because of budget reasons, which understandable.
Yeah, just smashed the table and shook everything. But so you've worked a wedding with a photographer, right? I think we've worked with the same photographer.
Yes.
We're not saying any names here, but there's a photographer here that's local to our region here in Indiana, and I don't even know where to start. She was not good to work with. She was selfish, and like literally, when the day started off, she started talking about how. What did she start off talking about, Caitlyn? Like
so when she first introduced herself to us, like we were there, 3 or 4 hours before she even showed up. And when she first introduced herself to us, she was like, oh yeah, I've worked with video teams before, and like I'll play nice, and like we can all get along together. And this was like right in front of the bride, so making a good impression. And literally an hour later, like we were at the venue at the same time. So we were at a hotel in the morning, and then we ended up at the venue at the same time. And she caught us like while we were all walking in, and she was like, man, I worked with the video team one time. They brought in like 5 cameras and they had tripods everywhere. And like she was like talking down on equipment. And so we were just like, oh yeah, okay. And then proceeded to bring in our 6 cameras and
which I want to point out, I want to say we bring that many cameras mainly for the photographer. So so the photographer, we always tell the photographer, like, you don't worry about our cameras. We got coverage. Walk around wherever, because I can always cut around them. I'm always cutting around them, and it's a benefit to the photographer. We have so many cameras. So, I mean, we tell them, just go where you got to go. We'll cut around. It's not a problem. But
yeah, and so she did. She went wherever she wanted to go, and she was very, very intrusive like the whole day. And she kept like leaving and going places without telling us where she was going. So this was an instance where she had created the entire timeline and was not informative to us or anyone else whatsoever at all. There was no communication. No. And we had asked, like the bride and groom gave us her contact information before the wedding, and we had reached out and there's no reply, no communication, nothing. And then the day of, she gave us her personal phone number, and she was like, oh yeah, if you ever need it, like while we're here, things can get kind of crazy and whatever. And so we had texted her because there was a gate code to get into the parking lot, and we asked her if she knew what it was, and no reply. So we saw her.
Which is something the couple should have gave us anyway, but still.
Yeah. But we could see her in the parking lot. Like we could physically see her, and she looked straight at us. And so we were like, hello, excuse me, how do we get in here? Like, yeah. And that whole morning, she was like bragging about the whole venue. She had shot at this venue before, and we hadn't. And she was like, "Oh yeah, it's low light, and they have like really horrible overhead lights, and there's like a lot of really beautiful spaces and whatever." But then we got inside, and she didn't know where the ceremony room was. She didn't know where the reception was based off of the ceremony. She didn't and her whole low light speech was not accurate. Like nothing she said was actually correct from the whole day. So she kind of like set our expectations super low and then crushed it all when we got there.
I'm pretty sure she was all talk with a lot of stuff. She was talking about herself a lot to us, and I did not like how she was talking about the video team being in her way. And she said literally, she said one time she was shooting a wedding and the video team was actually elbowing her out of the way. It was like, well, after shooting with her, I see why you have to. But she was very controlling of, and the photographer usually is in control the whole day, which I don't like when the video team and the photographers don't work together on that. They're not on the same page, which we've had plenty of good experiences with that. But she was in such control and held it, like wouldn't tell us where they were going, what they were doing. Like when she had the couple, and she literally ignored me. Do you remember that, Caitlyn? Like I came up, she was shooting the couple, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get like a shot of them at this window, like turning around. I said, I'm gonna get the shot, and they heard me, but then she like totally talked over me and like had them move and brought in other people. I was like, I was literally trying to do something,
and it was one shot, like only one shot, and something else too was like she during the first dance, so they had like a whole ballroom floor.
This was the moment where I was like, I knew it wasn't me, that I wasn't like thinking that I was overthinking her being rude. This was
Yeah. So the first dance, Austin and I, we were both standing off to the sides with our cameras, like waiting to come in. So we had one tripod shot that was wide angle that we could cut to, you know, if Austin needed that shot. And the photographer, she said, she was like, okay, you know, let me run in and get like 1 or 2 wide angle shots and then a close up shot. And then you can have it. Like you can have the floor, whatever you need to do. She was like, I'll wave at you. I'll signal for you guys to come in whenever you need to. And so we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and she was like bursting off flash. She had 2 flashes on stands, like on each side.
She had definitely taken probably 1,000 photos before.
Wow.
Probably
Yeah.
1,500 whatever.
Yeah,
but,
and then
yeah.
she never even signaled for us to come in at
So
all.
I do want to say she did. I went back and watched the footage. She did very briefly, like real quick, wave me a wave. So she did do that. I'll give her that. But like it was such a long time before she did. The dance was almost over. And the thing was too, before that, we have a tripod set up in I normally put it off to the side, so I have a locked off shot of the whole dance, and I run in with my gimbal and get some close up, moving shots. But she asked us to move that camera back. And then I moved it back. It's okay. Is this good? She's like, can you move it back more? And I moved it back. I'm like, my camera's so far out. I'm like, okay, like this is such a wide, far away, awkward shot now. It's like, so like even my locked off shot that I had as my camera B she had pushed it so far back away out of her photo, which I don't want to say that everyone should be able to do this, but like Caitlyn was saying, like you could edit that out, take the tripod out, like,
Easily.
Right. Yeah.
So she made me push that all the way back out of the way, which was like, it was almost useless for me. And then I'm sitting there in my gimbal waiting to run in to get my shot. And I'm like, what? I understand working together, but like the whole day was like, I felt like I worked for her. And it was like, okay, this shouldn't work this way. You shouldn't be that way. Like work together. But like she didn't help me out like at all. Nothing. She took, and because of that, I mean, the couple suffers because of that. Because like now I don't have this close up shot of the dance. I ended up running in and getting one because I, like, when I was like, okay, this is screw it. The dance is almost over. I'm running in. I got one shot, luckily in focus, but usually I like to run in like 2 or 3 times to make sure I get something for the highlight. But yeah, that at that moment I was like, okay, like there's 2 of them. There was 2 photographers. She had some help there. So like,
Yep.
so
I had the same.
Yeah, I wonder if the same one. But. So what was your experience like with this one individual? And if you guys are curious
awesome.
about it, you can message us directly.
Just as terrible, but so between my partner and I was always the one typically on the gimbal. He'd have a shoulder mount, but he wasn't really like moving around a lot. So especially during the dances, I'd be the one in there getting. And I think I don't want to say she did it purposefully.
Were you the one that elbowed her?
I wanted to. But I don't want to say she did this purposely, but it seemed like everywhere I went, she was right there, like blocking the shot. And I'm just like, okay, well, and each time I tried to like go the opposite direction, she was right there.
I don't know what this like alpha thing was with her.
I don't know, because it was the same way with she had help on the one that I worked with her at as well, and that was the same thing. So I literally had to, I don't know, like ninja my way in and trying to get the shot.
Oh yeah, and I don't like talking bad about people. I mean, we're not going to say who this is publicly. I'm just saying that like it was. The day's already stressful and frustrating, and we're all there to work together to capture the same moments. Like we're there for the same reason, for the same people hired us to capture it. Like, why can't we work together? And like she had, like you were saying, like this whole like get out of my way. This is my job. I don't know where that comes from. I never feel that way with photographers. I bring extra cameras for them, and I'll run it. I always make sure to ask them and tell them what I'm doing, where I'm going. And if I'm in your way, let me know. No problem. I'll move.
And not to change people, but I had there was another one that I did probably about a year and a half ago.
No, we could talk about somebody else. I think.
Okay, gotcha.
Unless you got more to say.
I do have one more thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, well.
Oh, am I going?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we'll finish up this one, and then we'll talk about somebody else. Then.
So something that we started this year with our company is we've started writing blogs for each of the weddings that we do, and it's kind of different than what most wedding bloggers do. Where we actually interview the couple beforehand, and we talk about like their love story and how they got engaged and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then we write about our experiences of the wedding day and, you know, like what our favorite memories were and all of that sort of stuff. So it's just something that the couple can have, you know, for after the wedding day, and then they can share it with people that weren't able to go, you know. And so during the first look, I had asked, or right before the first look of this wedding, I had asked that photographer if she wrote a wedding blog for her weddings, and she was like, oh yeah, we do this for all of them, you know, whatever. And I said, oh, well, you know, I just heard the groom say something really, really sweet, like to the bride whenever he saw her for the first time. And so I told her what it was, and she just went, like, that was it. Like, that was her reaction. Like, oh, okay. Like
I can't use that now because you told me about it.
Yeah. And so then after the wedding, like, she posted her blog after we posted ours. And first of all, like, it's not even a blog. Like, she tags all of the vendors, and then she posts her sneak peek photos, and that's it. So, like, she doesn't actually write anything about it. She didn't tag us as a vendor. Like, every single other vendor was in there, and they had a link to their website, and she had video team and left it blank. And so we still had her phone number, so we were like, okay, we're going to get, you know, ballsy with this. So we texted her, and we're like, hey, you know, we were at this wedding, we were the video team, and we noticed, like, we saw your blog, the photos look nice, and, you know, we just want to say that you didn't tag us, and I was wondering if that would be possible for you to do that. And she was like, oh, yeah, sorry, you know, of course I'll go through and add you. And she never did. Like, no. never added us to it. Like, she didn't even, like, really apologize for it or anything, just didn't add. And then she said that the bride didn't have us on her vendor list. And we're like, we knew that bride and groom personally. So, like, we know that they had us. We know that, you know. Yeah, it was like one thing after another. Even after the wedding, there were still things coming back from her. But
okay, well, we'll move on to the person you're about to talk about, more people, and then we'll probably wrap it up. I've wrapped this part 1 up. So I'll just go let you go. So who is this?
Okay, gotcha.
Well, not who is this?
Yeah.
No names. No names.
So this guy, this photographer, he has definitely been in the business for a really long time. He was probably in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, and he basically told, when my friend and I got there, he basically told us that, like, just stay out of my way and we won't have any problems. This dude was so entitled and to literally everything, and you know, after the first look that he did with the photos, I was like, okay, well, we're gonna do the same video wise, and he went straight to the bride and groom and said, hey, let's go ahead and go over here and get some photos, and just completely disregard everything. Mm-hmm. Basically told the bride and groom, we're like, oh yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go over here and take some more photos. And I'm just like,
it's so inconsiderate. We had a similar experience with one of the ones we did. Remember the photographers? There was 2 of them. They stole the bride and groom and drove off with them, and they didn't even tell us.
Yeah, they went to a whole new location. Like, they drove down the road. Like, it had to have been at least a mile away. Took the bride and groom, just left. Like,
we seen them pulling out, so like we jumped. I didn't have time to grab my gimbal, so I had to go freehanded, grab my gear, jumped in the car, and like chase them down.
Yeah,
it was
that's crazy.
Yeah. But then, like, we pulled up, and they act like they give us like weird looks, like, "Why'd you come?" That's how I felt. Every time these photographers always looked at us, like, "Why are you here? What are you doing?" I don't think they ever even heard of a wedding film, and they didn't know what we were doing. Is what I think.
Yeah.
But.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't really get it. But yeah, the guy that I was working with, he just, I don't know whether it's because he was much older than us, and he just thought, like, oh well, I'm more important. But yeah, and I'm like, I actually here recently, after I did these past few weddings, just photos, I kind of compared our style, and I'm like, it doesn't really even look like he edits the photos.
I've seen
It
that
just
before.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly,
I'm just like,
the person we were just talking about. I don't. Sometimes looks like they. Which nothing's wrong with that. If you take good photos and they look good, that's all that
Right.
matters. But yeah, but like, I know what you're saying. Where like they just kind of like maybe set a custom profile on camera and like that's it, and
granted, I mean, like
probably don't even shoot
like we've
raw.
said, right? I mean, like we said, a lot of people don't know what they're looking for, but like even if they don't know what they're looking for, just basically like the few times that I've actually been able to actually meet up with a bride and groom like weeks ahead of time, I was the one to basically tell them what they wanted, and they're like, "Yeah, that sounds amazing."
Yeah,
because that normally happens, but
it does. Which is
I
nice
think-
to not have someone who's like picky. Honestly, it's more intimidating
Right.
to have someone who's like, they have this Pinterest board and they're sending you like other photographers' work. Like that's always awkward when like they're sending someone else's work.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
well, do you just want to hire them? Like, wait.
exactly.
Especially when they're more expensive and they come to you and it's like, can you make this work for less?
What is it? I seen. I don't know if we talked about it, but I think there was this meme going around where it said that like client's expectation, and it's this these like 3 big Alexa cameras, and
Yeah.
then it's just you there with like your single DSLR camera.
Yeah.
And honestly, like when I started out, it was like the DSLR revolution was just starting. So I felt really weird running around with like when I was filming on just a DSLR. Like it's no, I think it's becoming more normal now than being in the video world. So then it was awkward starting out, and it still is sometimes when we're filming on some of our like Sony bodies when we're next to someone who's like taking photos on a similar body, because a lot of people think we're taking photos too, and they'll think we're the photographer when we're actually filming. So sometimes I'll put like even just throwing a mic on the camera, people still don't get it, but
Yeah, they'll just stand there posing and
Yeah.
smiling like,
yeah.
I'm not taking a photo.
Yeah, it's funny sometimes, but and I think that's the one we were talking about, the photographers. I didn't think we were filming. I think they thought they hired 2 photographers or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
well,
But I will say, like filming weddings, like you could take that into so many other things, like filmmaking aspect wise.
it is
like,
literally. I think it is the best training grounds for any kind of filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of everything. It is. It literally is. It's like all the hard stuff were just compacted into one job, it's a wedding. You got client expectations. You got time pressure. No redos. Usually you're dealing with
Yeah,
audio.
really.
You're running everything on your own usually. You're not running around with help. I mean, like, if anything, 1 or 2 other people. I mean, there's the pressure alone is enough. But
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why I've kind of slowed down, at least for myself, slowed down on like filming weddings just because there are no redos, and
yeah. It's
just
tough.
kind of wanted to. Yeah,
That's
it's
the reason I bring multiple cameras, so I have
right.
like the Kiss. I make sure I have like 5 cameras on them. Like one of them's got to get something. But so we can wrap up this part, and we'll go into part 2 where we will talk about issues with clients paying, payment, sexual harassment, and then more about like the editing process and what we deal with after that. So that's it for this one. We'll see you in part 2 if you want to watch it. If not, then we sing you now and bye.